I've always wanted schools to be different. And I've always wanted a classroom to be a place where every child feels like they belonged. So I decided to become a teacher. During the pandemic, I graduated from the Institute of Teachers Education Malaysia. Early this year, I was officially assigned to teach 7 to 12-year-olds English in a national primary school. 5 years in training, I thought I had what it takes to become the transformational teacher I've always wanted to be. But that was slightly ambitious. The first few months was a disaster. It was a torture, if I were to be brutally honest. My students had a hard time paying attention to me. I had to rephrase my instructions all the time. It was a formula for chaos. Each time a senior teacher passed by my classroom, I imagined them saying, "Typical of this generation, they don't know what they're doing." Obviously, they didn't say that, but that was all in my imagination. But along the way, I actually found something I'm good at, which is connecting with my students. And I believe this has something to do with me being part of their generation. I'm a Gen Z teacher, and they are at the younger end of Generation Z. So in desperate need for their attention and cooperation to me during my lessons, I found that Generation Z posed unique traits that could potentially shake up the world of education. But I start knowing this by learning from my learners. I learn what they want. The average attention span of a Gen Z is 8 seconds. That's how long they will take to decide if something interests them or not. Not a lot of time. That's why every day I would crack my head trying to design a perfect lesson filled with values. Because one wrong move, then you would see some of my students at the back of the class fighting with brooms. Some others will be passing papers, playing X's and O's. Some others will be writing the names of their favorite BTS members all over their exercise book, and none of them will be paying attention to me. It's almost like I was invisible. Now, this is fairly normal for a class full of 38 energetic students with different learning styles and unique preferences. But I don't want it to always be like this. Of course, like any other teacher, I want the lesson to be productive. Often, a novice teacher like me would ask for guidance and help from a senior teacher. But I found a better solution. One day, my student Alia bravely raised her hand and said, "Miss, this is boring. Can we play games instead?" I was taken aback, I won't lie to you, but the whole class agreed unanimously, so I said, why not? We played the game Alia suggested. Eventually, the lesson turned into a cooperative game-based lesson where everyone was eager to show that they understood the lesson and to participate. The productivity rate of that lesson increased immediately, and we actually reached the lesson objectives without having to follow the conventional lesson blueprint where I choose the content and I choose how to present the content. The students somehow just absorb the content from me. Think about it. Didn't we all secretly wish that our teachers in the past would just assess what we wanted, what we didn't want, and what we think would be fun to be included in the lessons? Then maybe homeworks won't feel like homeworks at all. And schools will be more like a playground that makes you smarter, and you would know how you learned best. So now, in my class, we play to learn. We invented toys, because apparently the toys that were included in their textbooks are no longer cool. Yes, toy trains and dolls are no longer cool. And we even discuss the solutions to their first world problems, like how to tell mom that children can be busy too. I let them lead, and I let them become the teacher, with my guidance, of course. I let them do whatever their heart desire. From my daily survey, I found that They want a teacher who can relate to them and who they can relate to. They want a teacher who is compassionate, fun, less scary, and speaks their language. So now, I don't say, you did a good job. I say, you slayed. Sheesh. Because that's how they speak, right? If we take our time to show our authentic desire, to get to know what they want, beyond their test scores and performance, and beyond what other teachers may say, we are building an inclusive environment, celebrating their differences and fulfilling their learning potential. I also learn their stories. Now, when I was a trainee, I had a student named Abi. Abi was a petite boy. He was an introvert, so he didn't talk much. Each time I asked Abi a question, he never answered. He seemed unhappy all the time, and he was always staring into the distance. So I assumed that Abi was just not interested. Until one day, I saw Abi running towards a man in his mid-30s, wearing sunglasses and walking with a white cane. He hugged this man, and they walked out of the school compound. The next day, I asked Abi the question I always asked him. Why did you hand in an empty worksheet? Abi said, nothing. He looked at me, and then he looked down. But in that brief moment, I saw a gaze that was very familiar. I saw the young me in him. So I asked him, did you have a hard time? He nodded. Was it really that difficult? He nodded again. He then continued to tell me his story. He said, nobody at home could help him with his homework. His parents, they read differently. His sister was busy. He wanted to do the work so bad, but he couldn't. He proceeded to tell me, I'm sorry. To be honest, he didn't have to. I should have asked him the question sooner. But from Abid, I learned that no child belongs in Santa's naughty list. They just have a different story to tell. And so from that moment onwards, I always listen to their story. I found that though this is a generation that is interconnected globally, they face not only challenges that we've heard of, but also burdens that other generations could not imagine. From the effects of a global pandemic to their education, to fathoming things that are happening around the world because they have endless access to information that they don't understand. And at such a young age, they know what mental health issues are and what being under a stress is, because they've either experienced it or they've witnessed someone experiencing it. Thankfully, we are living in a generation that is more aware of mental health issues, and we have some understanding through the lived experience of generational pressures. And as a Gen Z teacher, I am more open to talk about mental health issues and less likely to feel negative stigma surrounding it. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever a student or a child comes to you and asks a sensitive question, don't be taken aback. Don't be mad. Take it as a golden opportunity to guide them on the right path, to lead them to make the right choices in life, even though these questions are the questions that we ourselves want to ask our parents. When we have more open discussions about mental health issues, and when we create a supportive environment, we are creating a school that is more understanding of mental health issues, and we are creating a future where there will be less wounded adults walking on earth. And number 3, I learned about their hashtag world. We were talking about ambition one day, me and my 11-year-old students. And when I was their age, I would be ecstatic to talk about my dreams and how I plan to change the world with them. But in contrast, these students were either not interested to talk about their ambitions with me, or they just didn't have an ambition yet at the time. So I decided to give them some space to think about their dreams and hopefully share them with me one day. The next day, as I stepped into the classroom, a student of mine from the back of the class shouted, "I want to become a teacher." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "You didn't have a dream yesterday." I wasn't trying to offend her, but I was like, "You didn't have a dream yesterday." She said, "I know, but I'm really, really sure now I want to become a teacher." So I asked her, why? She said she came across a TikTok video I made, and it was really inspirational to her. Two miracles here. Number one, she found my TikTok account that I tried to hide so much. And number two, a 20-second TikTok video was more inspirational than the speech I gave them the day before. So I guess I didn't have to try hard. And in the same class is a squad of game lovers who would come to school with their eye bags and dark under eyes. These are the very people who made me change my methods or approach to teaching. They told me, "Why can't homeworks or the tasks you gave us be more like games? They are difficult, but we can always win." So I thought to myself, yeah, why not? I mean, it should be like that. It should be difficult enough for them to learn something, but not too difficult so that they could feel success. The reality is, this generation are digital natives. They are social media influencer at heart. They could not imagine a world without having their tablets, their laptops, and their smartphones as companion. They cannot go by a day not talking about anything that goes viral on the internet. They talk about it like it's a necessity, and their Gen Z teacher is not excluded, of course. And so, if their screen time matters so much to them, then we make meaningful inclusion of that into the classroom. Now, when we talk about technology, inclusion of technology into the classroom, often people would imagine geniuses on their laptops typing in a fast pace, but it doesn't always have to be that complex. For instance, this one time I showed to my students a video about volcano because they had a hard time imagining what is a volcano, even though these students live in Ranau, whereby they are surrounded by mountains in Sabah. So I showed them a video. For the rest of the week, they associated volcano and magmas to everything. It's hot like the volcano. Don't come nearer or else I would erupt like the volcano. That's when I know I did something right, because that was such a boring topic. I don't know why they were so interested in it and were so immersed. And because they are digital natives, and they learn technology like it is so natural, like it is a natural thing to them. I even let them create TikTok videos for their homeworks, and I didn't even have to give them a tutorial because it was so easy to them. And with that simple inclusion, my students learned a lot. I was told by a parent, a student of mine watched that video repetitively, the video that they made, and grinning from ear to ear. Again, that's how I know I did something right. Because learning has to be like this. Learning has to be interesting. With simple inclusion like this, Our classroom will be fuller, learning will be more engaging, and our learners will be more self-sufficient. Technology may not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers will be transformational. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it feels so surreal to be standing before you today while having such a limited experience. It has not been a year yet since I was officially assigned to become a teacher. But like any other teacher across the world, I have something in common. I want to put students at the heart of my teaching practice. What they want matters, their story matters, and the reality that they are living in matters. So, whatever your methods or approaches to teachings are, just know that you are doing a great job by being yourself. And as they say, keep on slaying. Thank you so much.